Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through stacks of sources to extract the essential insights you need to be well-informed fast.
Hmm.
Today, we're taking a fascinating journey into the world of the humble business letter.
It sounds almost quaint, doesn't it?
It does. But our guide is Business Correspondence, Volume 1, How to Write the Business Letter. A timeless text that surprisingly reveals just how relevant these old-school communication principles still are.
It's quite remarkable, really. I mean, while the tools we use have certainly evolved, the fundamental mechanics of human connection, persuasion, and, effective communication through the written word remain incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to uncover these tried and true principles and some, frankly, surprising insights.
Yeah.
Showing you that they're far from dusty relics. In fact, they're critical tools for cutting through today's digital noise and making a real, lasting impression.
Definitely need that today.
Right. And to set the stage, let's kick off with a story straight from the source itself that truly highlights this, unexpected power of the letter.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So imagine a firm in Chicago. Just 10 years prior, it was a one-man operation. Now it boasts 300 employees.
Wow. Serious growth.
Huge growth. And here's the kicker, the most astonishing part. They've never hired a single traveling salesman.
Never. In that era.
Never. The head of the firm has never personally called on a customer.
That's hard to believe.
Isn't it? Yet you could mention his name in Syracuse or San Francisco, Jacksonville, or Walla Walla.
Right across the country.
And people would instantly recognize it. They'd say, oh, yes, I know him very well.
Wait.
They'd follow up with, that is, I've had several letters from him, and I feel as though I know him.
Just from letters. Incredible.
This individual, years ago, truly grasped the immense potential of the letter using mail to, and I quote, talk insane human you and me English.
I like that phrasing. Human.
Yeah, to sell goods, collect payments, and resolve complaints. Within 5 years, his personality, conveyed solely through these letters, had swept like a tidal wave across the country, reaching 1 million men.
1 million men.
Yeah.
Just through the mail. That truly captures the essence, doesn't it?
It really does.
So the critical question then is how? How could a mere letter achieve such extraordinary impact?
Well, what did the source say about that?
The source itself calls the letter the greatest salesman known to modern business.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a statement.
The greatest salesman.
Yeah. It carries your message wherever the mail goes, consistently generating business and drawing orders from across vast distances.
And what truly stands out here, I think, is the sheer versatility.
Right. It wasn't just one thing.
No. If you're a retailer, letters allow you to speak directly about your products, your store, your service to every family in your town.
Or even wider.
Or even build a customer base across the continent. And for manufacturers or wholesalers.
Yeah, what about them?
Letters become indispensable for identifying prospects and securing customers in remote towns that traveling salespeople just couldn't reach profitably.
That makes sense. The economics of it. And looking at the broader context, the letter isn't just a direct sales tool, right? It also powerfully supports any personal sales force.
Supports them how?
Well, used strategically, letters can pave the way for a salesperson's visit. Sort of warm them up.
Ah, like an introduction.
Exactly. Serve as an initial introduction and consistently remind prospects or existing customers about the company and its offerings long after a call. Keep that connection alive.
So it keeps the conversation going even between visits.
Precisely. They can even extend a sales manager's enthusiasm and direction to the farthest reaches of their territory, maintaining morale and focus, like a remote pep talk.
That's clever. And its reach goes far beyond sales, too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The source highlights how a letter can discreetly and efficiently secure vital credit information.
Credit info. How so?
Obtaining comprehensive reports where maybe a personal representative might face obstacles, precisely because the letter arrives with the frankness and dignity of your house.
Interesting. More formal, perhaps perceived as more official.
Maybe. Less confrontational, perhaps.
It's remarkable how many applications the source lists. Beyond sales and credit.
Right.
Introducing new product lines.
Right.
Aiding salesmen by keeping them informed. Boosting loyalty. Helping dealers by drumming up trade and developing new business. And maybe, most crucially, they excel at collecting money.
Ah, collections. Always tricky.
Yeah, and there's a particularly powerful example in the source. A company president on the brink of financial ruin,
Oh, wow.
penned a heart-to-heart letter to his customers. He gently reminded each one of the past credit extensions he granted them.
Calling in a favor, essentially.
Exactly. Appealing for help, Just as I helped you at such and such a time. Very personal, very direct.
Powerful stuff. So, okay, when we consider a letter as a strategic communication tool, what are its inherent strengths and limitations?
Yeah, that's key. The source is very candid about this. Letters do have handicaps.
What's those?
Well, a personal representative, they can gauge the mood of a room, right? They could adapt their message on the fly or even withdraw if the timing isn't right.
Read the room, basically.
Exactly. A letter offers no such flexibility. It can't retreat, nor can it dynamically shape its message once it's sent. It's static.
Okay, that makes sense. So that begs the question, how do you overcome those inherent disadvantages?
Good question. To mitigate these handicaps, the explanations within a letter must be so exceptionally clear that follow-up questions become, well, unnecessary.
Anticipate everything.
Pretty much. Potential objections must be anticipated and addressed proactively. The message needs to be concise.
Get to the point.
And the reader must always be treated with utmost respect, diplomatically guided to understand the precise relationship between their needs and your product.
Right. But despite these limitations, the letter possesses truly unique qualities, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Once opened, the letter is, and this is a great quote, your counterpart, speaking in your words just as you would talk to him if you were in his office or in his home.
So it's like, you're there.
In a way, yes. It doesn't just convey information. It embodies your personality, acting as a direct extension of you. Unlike, say, a third-party representative who might switch to a competitor tomorrow.
That's a really good point. Loyalty.
And broadly speaking, the letter often surpasses the salesman in terms of strategic advantage, especially when you factor in the expense.
Cheaper, presumably.
Significantly.
Yeah.
The source emphatically states that writing pulling letters that compel action, isn't a matter of innate talent or intuition.
Oh, so anyone can do it.
Well, they say it's an art that anyone can acquire, but, and this is crucial, it must be acquired through diligent study, hard work, and the intelligent application of proved-up principles.
Proved-up principles sounds like early A/B testing.
Doesn't it? It's fascinating how this antique wisdom mirrors modern digital marketing. They were doing data-driven optimization long before big data was even a term.
Amazing. Okay, so to start writing these pulling letters, you need your raw material.
Right, like an architect needs bricks and lumber.
Exactly. The effective correspondent collects facts, figures, specifications. It's about meticulously selecting talking points that will genuinely resonate with the prospect.
And a key insight from the source here is the fundamental shift in philosophy they advocated.
What shift was that?
The old school of letter writing primarily focused on their own viewpoint.
Yeah.
Lots of our goods, our profits.
Me.
Pretty much. The new school, by contrast, intentionally keeps their own interest in the background. They aim solely to center on the reader's viewpoint.
Find out what the reader cares about.
Exactly. Identifying what truly interests them and constructing arguments that appeal directly to their needs, their problems.
Okay, makes sense. And where do these powerful arguments actually come from? Did the source give examples?
Oh, tons. A comprehensive list, actually. From the house itself, everything from raw materials, quality, supply chain, price, plant capacity.
Internal stuff.
Right. New equipment, methods of salesman, credit policy, even old customer correspondence. Then the customer. And it's not just about existing customers. It's crucial to gather insights from those who didn't buy, understand their objections, their pain points.
Learn from the nose.
Exactly. Then competitors. Analyze their plant size, equipment, new campaigns, advertising, their general aggressiveness.
Know thy enemy.
You got it.
Yeah.
Also looking at other methods, not just direct competitors, observing advertising and sales campaigns elsewhere for inspiration.
Casting a wider net for ideas.
And finally, miscellaneous sources. Broader market conditions, current events, even general magazine advertising could spark an idea.
So you gather all this info. Then what? Just have a big pile of notes?
No. Gathering this wealth of information is basically wasted unless it's meticulously classified and instantly accessible.
Organized.
Highly organized. The source recommends notebooks, scrapbooks, folders, or card indexes for organizing ideas and what they called inspirational material.
Like a swipe file.
Precisely. And this system, it stresses, must be growing, constantly updated, because, quote, ideas spring from many sources.
It has to be a living system.
Absolutely. And here's something really interesting.
Yeah.
Progressive businesses of that era rigorously tested every campaign.
We were just talking about this, like A/B testing.
Exactly like that. They proved their arguments and talking points on smaller test lists first. This allowed them to determine with mathematical accuracy the pulling power of every argument.
Mathematical accuracy. That's bold.
Isn't it? But this rigor enabled them to systematically reuse only the most successful appeals. No guesswork.
Wow. Data-driven marketing in, what, the early 1900s?
Seems like it.
Okay, so you've got your material, you've tested your points. How do you actually connect with your audience in writing?
This is where it gets really personal. The source insists you must visualize your prospect.
Visualize them? How?
You need to fix firmly in your mind a single individual who perfectly represents the class of people you're trying to reach. Like, create an avatar.
Focus on one person.
Yes. Forget about anyone else. Concentrate your entire selling message, your entire talk on this one person.
Wow, that's intense focus.
It is. One successful correspondent from the era actually said, you have got to be a regular spiritualist in order to materialize the person to whom you're writing. Bring him into your office and talk to him face to face.
Become a spiritualist. That's quite the image.
Isn't it? And the source is filled with powerful examples of this kind of immersive research.
Like what?
Well, there was an advertising man struggling to write letters to minors. He couldn't get it right.
Okay.
So he actually went to a cold breaker, spent 2 full days just talking to them, getting a line on the average of intelligence, their needs, the point of contact.
He went to them, ligged it for a bit.
Exactly. And his letters afterwards, they apparently glowed with enthusiasm. He finally got it.
Makes sense. You understand them better.
Totally. There's another story of a printer perfecting a dryer. His sales just skyrocketed from selling 11 out of 15, then 64 out of 100, eventually to 58,000 out of 100,000 orders.
Huge jump.
All after he deeply understood his product in relation to his audience and refined his approach.
Wow. Any others?
Yeah, this one's great. A young man was offered double his salary to head a mail-order clothing house's publicity department. Big job.
Nice offer.
But before taking it, he shrewdly spent 2 months working as a $9 a week clerk in small-town clothing stores.
Seriously, he took a massive pay cut.
Yep. He studied the trade, listened to countless conversations, learned firsthand what farmers and small-town men actually looked for in clothes,
Ground-level research.
and, critically, what talking points truly made sales. He willingly sacrificed nearly $1,000, a lot of money, then just to gain this insight.
So he could write letters that would genuinely sell?
That's it. And one more, a salesman of automatic scales constantly kept the image of a struggling small grocer from his hometown in mind when writing.
Why that specific person?
Because he knew his local conditions, the grinding out competition he faced, it made the writing specific, empathetic.
That level of immersive research and personalization is truly compelling. It really underscores that understanding your audience on a deep level is absolutely paramount. Then, now, always.
Couldn't agree more. Once you've achieved that deep understanding, the next crucial step is capturing their attention and arousing their interest.
Okay, the opening. How do you hook them?
Well, first, what not to do. The source strongly cautions against long-spun introductions and hackneyed expressions.
Like what?
Like the classic, we're in receipt of your valued inquiry.
Ugh, yeah, stilted.
Totally. Such rambling sentences and loose paragraphs, the source warns, have proved the graveyard for many excellent propositions.
The graveyard. Okay, so avoid the boring stuff. How do you grab attention effectively?
The best approach, naturally, depends on your proposition and your audience, but they list some methods that worked really well back then.
Let's hear them.
One was mental shock. Bold, attention-grabbing statements.
Like clickbait, almost.
Kind of. Things like, this means money to you, big money. Or, let me pay your next month's rent. Or even, stop shoveling your money into the furnace.
Whoa. Very direct.
Right. Another was concrete imagery. Painting a vivid picture like, if this letter were printed on $10 bills, it could scarcely be more valuable to you.
Creates instant perceived value.
Exactly. Then there's addressing pain points directly.
Like the minor example.
Sort of. A printing press manufacturer started a letter with, if your press feeders always showed up on Monday morning, if they were never late, never got tired, you would increase the output of your plant.
Hitting a known frustration.
Yeah, the source says it immediately gets under his skin. Another tactic. Timely allusion or news.
Connecting to current events.
Yep. Like highlighting a prize-winning hog raised on your specific stock food. Or a retailer announcing a purchase of bankrupt stock at 38 cents on the dollar, using that news value.
Makes it relevant now.
Also, personal touches. Starting with phrases like, I was talking to Mr. Phillips this morning, and he told me that you had written to us.
Creates instant connection.
Brings the writer and reader closer, feels less like mass mail. And finally, novelty or unusual typography.
Like formatting tricks.
Yeah. Using all caps for emphasis, like, even if you had to pay to secure a copy of this letter, you could not afford to fail to consider it.
Grabs the eye.
Or even sending an unsealed letter with a note explaining. Leaving our letter unsealed for postal inspection is the best proof that our goods are exactly as represented.
Clever. Shows confidence.
Okay, so you've got their attention. But beyond just that initial grab, a critical consideration then becomes how you lead up to your proposition from the reader's point of view.
Back to the you focus.
Always. Couple up your goods with his needs. Show him where he will benefit. This is the absolute core of the you element.
So the practical takeaway here is like, ditch the we habit. Avoid things like, we are very desirous of receiving an order from you.
Exactly. The reader already knows you want a sale. The wisdom from the source is to shout you and whisper me.
Shout you, whisper me. I like that.
Focus consistently on what they gain. There's an example of a letter selling a railroad book. It never mentions the seller's profit. It focuses entirely on how the book would appeal to a brother railroader, speaking directly to his identity and interests.
Very targeted. Okay, so attention and interest are secured. What's next?
Now you need to swiftly transition into describing and explaining your product. Visualize it for the reader. Introduce concrete proof.
But keep that connection.
Absolutely. The key throughout is to maintain that point of contact, always linking the product or service directly back to the reader's specific needs.
And for, like, really detailed descriptions, you can't put everything in the letter, right?
Good point. The source advises leveraging circulars or catalogs for the nitty-gritty details.
Okay.
But crucial points should still be highlighted within the letter itself, and with originality. Don't just repeat the catalog.
Got it. What should descriptions cover?
They should clearly explain what the item is for, how it's made, its appearance, how it's used, and its key points of superiority. And reinforce this with samples or illustrations if possible.
Makes sense. See it, touch it.
What I find particularly insightful here is the distinction the source draws between mere explanation and a compelling argument.
What's the difference in their view?
Explanation alone might pique interest, get them curious. But it doesn't carry conviction in the same way a well-constructed argument does. An argument persuades.
Ah, okay. Explanation informs, argument convinces.
You got it. And for building that crucial proof, that conviction, the source champions testimonials and guarantees.
Social proof and risk reversal. Still huge today.
Exactly. References like, when we showed this fixture to John Wanamaker's man, it took just about 3 minutes to close the deal for 6 of them. Since then, they've ordered 74 more.
That builds confidence fast. Specific, credible.
Right. And providing the name and address of the person giving the testimonial or referencing a mutual acquaintance makes these claims feel undeniably genuine.
Authenticity matters. So this brings up a vital point. How do you persuade without, alienating your prospect? It's a fine line.
It really is.
Yeah.
The source issues a strong warning against insulting language.
Like what kind of thing?
Stuff like, why will you let a few dollars stand between you and success?
Yeah.
Why waste your time wearing yourself out working for others?
Ouch. Yeah, that sounds condescending.
Totally. They call it an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they say, make a forceful appeal by tapping into their ambition.
Oh.
Like this. Remember, the men now in positions you covet did not tumble into them by accident. Have you the courage to make the start? Grasp an opportunity.
Ah, much better. It's about empowerment, inspiration, not shame.
Exactly. That's a powerful approach.
Yeah.
It's truly about inspiring rather than shaming.
Yeah.
And interestingly, they note that sometimes a little ginger, even some slang,
Yeah.
can act as a stimulant.
Really? Slang in business letters?
Apparently, yes,
Yeah.
provided it's not laying it on too thick. But they also warn strongly against exaggeration.
Why is that?
They identify it as a major trap that leads to poor quality inquiries or even collection problems down the line. Manage expectations.
Good advice.
Broadly speaking, persuasion should always maintain a dignified tone and attract actual interest rather than just fleeting curiosity.
Makes sense. Any examples of good persuasion?
Correspondence schools offering guaranteed positions or time-limited enrollment offers are presented as excellent examples of effective, dignified persuasion, creating urgency but respectfully.
Okay. So how do you bring all of this home? Get the order, you've grabbed attention, built interest, presented your case.
Right, you've done all the hard work.
But then, as the source kind of laments, many correspondents just turn heel and leave him with the assurance that they will be pleased to give him further information.
When they could have closed the deal.
Exactly. When they could have had his order by laying the contract before him and saying, sign here.
It's remarkable how relevant that poor finisher's problem still is today, isn't it?
Totally. In sales, in writing.
They succeed in getting attention, building interest, but then they hesitate to actually ask for the sale.
Yeah. And an inquiry, the source reminds us, is simply a clue to a sale and not a result in itself.
Good distinction.
Your goal isn't just to win their interest initially. You need to sustain and develop it all the way to the buying point.
Don't drop the ball at the 5-yard line.
Exactly. And a crucial element in getting to that buying point is promptness.
Speed matters.
Definitely. Just as you appreciate a swift answer, so does your prospect. That window of piqued interest, it's often fleeting. Blink and you miss it.
And the enduring principle here seems to be the power of the first strike. Hit them with your best shot early.
How so?
Well, the chance of securing a sale with a third follow-up letter, the source argues, is significantly less than with the first one.
Diminishing returns.
Big time. It's typically poor policy to withhold some strong argument from the first letter in order to save it for the second or the third.
Don't hold back.
Nope. Their advice: better fire the 13-inch gun as soon as you have the range.
Yeah.
Don't save your best ammunition.
Love that analogy. Okay, so be prompt, be bold.
Yeah.
How do you make that final step, the actual ordering, as easy as possible?
Reduce friction. The source advises you need to make it easy for him to answer, unless it is almost as easy to answer as it is not to answer.
Make it easier to say yes than no. How?
By proactively providing order blanks, return cards, pre-addressed envelopes, all the tools they need.
Remove the barriers.
Exactly. If no money is required upfront, a simple postcard works. Sign and mail the card represents the absolute extreme of simplicity. One step.
Can't get easier than that.
And guarantees and free trial offers are presented as paramount for strengthening the close and building that final bit of confidence.
Risk reversal again.
Yep. Your money back, if not satisfactory, is highlighted as a key slogan for a reason. It works.
Any specific examples?
There are offers like a manufacturer allowing a machine to be returned after 30 days if you are willing or may return it.
Subtle wording.
Yeah, sometimes even without explicitly mentioning the price in that part of the pitch, it effectively focuses the prospect's attention squarely on the low risk involved for them.
Smart. What else for the close?
Another powerful closing tactic: give a compelling reason for prompt action. Create urgency, but make it believable.
Like a limited time offer.
Sort of, but with a good reason. A tailor, for instance, offering an extra pair of trousers at the same price ordinarily charged for a suit, but only during the dull season.
Why then?
Specifically to keep his skilled men busy. That's a great example of a plausible and effective inducement. It makes sense.
Okay, that covers the content and the close. What about something often overlooked? The physical presentation, the letter's dress.
Ah, yes. Hugely important, according to the source. The quality of your paper, your stock, much like a well-tailored suit,
First impressions matter.
largely determines the perceived taste and financial resources of the sender. An impression, favorable or otherwise, is often formed before the letter is even read, just by the feel and look of it.
Wow, so the paper itself sends a message.
Definitely. A critical consideration is that the mechanical appearance frequently differentiates truly important business letters from, well, junk mail. 99 times out of 100, the choice between cheap, readily available paper versus carefully selected stationery from a broader assortment can instantly signal the sender's perceived caliber. You can often tell from a distance.
Interesting. And the letterhead itself.
Plays a vital role in setting the tone. While it offers space for offices, buildings, trademarks, lists of branches,
All the official stuff.
the tendency today, even back then, was toward simplicity. Too much information leads to visual clutter and confusion. Keep it clean.
Less is more, even then.
What's truly insightful here isn't just the specific production methods they used, like lithography for large orders,
Yeah.
but the underlying principle they illustrate. Even subtle details in presentation communicate professionalism and perceived value. Investing in quality materials showed you were serious.
It signals commitment. So how did this commitment to dress translate into the actual execution, especially for things like form letters?
They paid incredible attention to detail. Even subtle things mattered immensely. When filling in form letters, typists were trained to match ribbon shades precisely.
Match the ink. Wow.
Yep. Use techniques like overlaying work for speed or even working backward on the name and address for pinpoint accuracy. They even used guides to ensure exact margins.
Ridiculous.
And companies added highly personalized touches to make form letters feel less generic.
How do they do that?
A typist might fill in specific details, like a customer's automobile serial number, or a neighbor's name, or a precise town and catalog page number right at the end of a sentence.
Little details that show it's not just a form letter.
Exactly. Even a postscript could be personalized, maybe handwritten, or using special printing to mimic a quick blue pencil note, or even dictating a unique second page just for that recipient.
Going the extra mile for personalization. What about enclosures, flyers, brochures?
Potential pitfalls there. The source warns against letting enclosures stamp it as circular. Make them feel integrated, not just stuffed in. If you're offering a special price, actually print the regular price on the enclosure and then literally blot it out to stamp or write in the special one.
Makes the deal look more tangible, more real.
Right. And critically, you should refer to enclosures in the letter in a way that clearly indicates individual attention. Perhaps even numbering them with a pen and then referring to them by that specific number in the letter itself. See enclosure #2 for details.
Makes it feel curated for them.
And the enduring principle here, especially for products, is that samples are paramount. You have to let people experience the product.
Examples.
A wall composition manufacturer sent a small finished section of their board. A knitting mill mounted fabric samples right onto the letter, sometimes with a tape measure.
Clever.
A roofing concern sent actual sections of roof coatings. A business envelope manufacturer sent samples of different grades bearing the names of well-known companies that use them.
Ooh, sample plus testimonial.
Exactly. It also served as an order blank. Even a correspondence school sent miniature diploma.
A mini diploma. That's brilliant.
The goal was to allow the prospect to literally handle the article and visualize the goods. That tactile element is still key for selling today, physical or digital.
Absolutely. So, okay, we've covered structure, content, presentation. What about the actual language, the words themselves?
Right. The core idea is that letter writing is a craft. It's a meticulous process of selecting and arranging words to convey thought with both clarity and conciseness.
And it's harder than talking, right?
In some ways, yes. A letter lacks the speaker's voice, their animation, their gestures. That's a handicap that must be overcome by making the words themselves do the heavy lifting.
Oh.
They need to attract attention quickly, explain a proposition fully, make a distinct impression, and move him to reply. The words have to work harder.
So word choice is critical.
Extremely. What truly stands out here is the relentless focus on precise word choice. Pulling letters, they call them, are described as crooning unessential words and favoring simple, direct Anglo-Saxon words over more complex Latin derivations. Like saying, take your choice, instead of indicate your selection, or we cannot see, instead of we are unable to discern.
Simpler, clearer.
Exactly. They actively eliminated shelf-worn phrases, the business jargon of the day, like we beg to acknowledge or hoping to hear from you soon.
Cut the fluff.
Proverbs and slang, the source notes, actually became popular in some contexts because they could express a wealth of meaning in very few words. Punchy.
Interesting. But it's not just about short words, is it?
No, great point. While short, vigorous words are vital, sometimes longer, less familiar words are necessary for a finer shade of meaning. It's about precision, finding the right word, not just the shortest one.
Nuance matters.
And looking at the larger context, word placement for emphasis is also critical.
How you arrange the sentence.
Right. The source provides an example. We charge you for the service quality, we give you the appearance quality. See how it deliberately emphasizes charge and give.
Yeah, highlights the value proposition.
Even a long sentence can be forceful if the idea unfolds gradually and logically. Structure matters as much as word choice.
And what about style? That individuality you mentioned, is it just innate?
Not according to this source. They argue it isn't simply a birthright, it's cultivated.
How?
One individual mentioned kept a notebook specifically for phrases and comparisons he encountered day to day, like collecting good lines.
Building a personal lexicon.
Another systematically read certain writers specifically to replenish his supply of fresh similes and crisp expressions, learning from the masters.
Active learning.
And a mail-order sales head diligently maintained scrapbooks filled with clipped words, phrases, and striking sentences he liked.
So deliberate practice.
Exactly. This highlights a crucial point. Effective writing is a deliberate, intellectual exercise. It's not just dashing something off.
Takes effort.
Serious effort. The ability to write convincingly demands detailed study of the proposition, mentally visualizing the specific individuals you're writing to, and carefully considering every element, language, argument, inducements. It is truly brain work, akin to the meticulous preparation of a doctor or a lawyer.
Thinking like a professional.
And the ultimate result of this deliberate effort, it's an individuality and vitality that makes a letter rise above the underbrush of ordinary business correspondence.
Stand out from the pile.
Precisely. Consider the example of a paper manufacturer's letter, personally inviting you to test his long fiber linen, paper-specific, tactile, personal,
Right.
or a firm whose announcement about a fire wasn't just formal, but warm and focused on the bargains available because of it.
Turning a negative into a positive opportunity.
Or a college president sending a personal invitation versus a generic stereotype form letter. These letters, the source argues, create a feeling of intimacy, of confidence in the writer that no formal arguments, logical reasons, or special inducements could ever secure.
That connection matters more than just the facts.
That principle, building genuine connection through carefully chosen words, remains incredibly powerful, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned tailoring the message earlier. While the you element is universal, the kind of appeal must vary depending on the audience, right?
Exactly. The source gets quite specific here, offering some, well, let's say historically framed but interesting insights into different demographics.
Okay, let's hear them. What about writing to men?
For men, the source suggests appeals to ambition are particularly effective. Things like larger income, a better position, honor, recognition.
Appealing to status and achievement.
Right. Men, it states, tend to prefer logic and conviction over sentiment and persuasion. They apparently fear being worked, manipulated, and need a mass of figures and solid arguments.
Hard facts, logical arguments.
Examples given include investment letters proving potential earnings with data, or the very direct payday appeal used by correspondence schools focusing on career advancement.
Makes sense. What about writing to women? The advice must be different.
Very different, according to the source. It advises appealing to their curiosity, their love of style, and their desire to economize.
Curiosity, style, savings. Okay.
Skillful, implied flattery, it notes, can also be highly effective. And samples. Extremely powerful for this audience.
So samples again.
Yeah, pulling thousands of orders that could never have been landed with printed descriptions or illustrations. Seeing and feeling the product was key.
What else for women?
Anecdotes and personal stories were highlighted as particularly impactful. Things like the Cousin Elsie letter or recounting Mrs. Elliot's troubles.
Using relatable narratives.
Exactly. Because they're chatty, they feel more like a personal social letter than a hard sell. It's fascinating how specific these observations about audience psychology were, even back then.
Very specific. Okay, one more group. Farmers. What was the approach there?
Farmers are characterized as shrewd judges of necessities, practical people.
Right.
So letters to them must directly appeal to their specific needs and provide detailed specifications to think about. Lots of detail.
Give them the facts to mull over.
And guarantees and free trial offers with clear money-back promises, considered absolutely essential for this audience. Build that trust.
Low risk, high detail.
And looking at the larger context for farmers, the timing of letters truly matters.
Timing. How so?
Winter months, the source suggests, are the best time for comprehensive information to soak in, when they have more downtime.
Seasonality.
During this period, long verbose letters filled with specifications, estimates, complicated diagrams, those are effective. They have time to read.
Okay.
However, letters for the work months need to be short and snappy. Get straight to the point when they're busy.
Adapt to their schedule. Makes sense.
And crucially, for this audience perhaps more than others, the proposition must always be made so plain that there is no possibility of its being misinterpreted. Utter clarity.
No room for confusion. Got it. So, after diving deep into this fascinating old book, Business Correspondence, what's the crucial takeaway for you, our listener, today?
Well, I think it's abundantly clear that writing communications that truly pull, that get results, is an enduring art form.
It's way more than just words on paper.
So much more. It's about profoundly understanding your audience, meticulously crafting a message that resonates deeply with their needs, their world.
And presenting it well.
And presenting it with both undeniable clarity and a distinctive, memorable individuality.
That connection piece again.
Yeah, the enduring principle here is that these age-old maxims, whether you apply them to a physical letter, An email, a proposal, even social media posts.
The medium changes, the principle doesn't.
Exactly. They ultimately emphasize genuine human connection and the strategic presentation of real value. It boils down to knowing your reader so intimately that your words seamlessly become their words, echoing their deepest needs and aspirations.
Making them feel understood. So what's the practical application? What should people think about?
Well, consider your own daily communications, your emails, your reports, your messages. Are they merely dead-level correspondence, just conveying data?
Or is there more?
Or do they pulsate with a vital message that actually cuts through the noise and makes someone feel something, makes them want to act?
Yeah, what genuine point of contact, as the source calls it, are you truly making with every word you write?
Are you just sending information or are you building a bridge?
Here's something to mull on until our next deep dive.